Hi everyone, welcome to day 17 of Vlogmas. Thank you for joining me today. Oh, I'm with my girls and they're so beautiful. I love them. Everyone is very content today. It is beautiful out. The sun is shining. The weather is nice. Their bellies are full. And like I said in a previous day, when the weather is nice, they're nicer to each other. It is so true. I see it time and time again. Anyway, yeah, so they're my beautiful girls. Today, I wanted to talk about M-worm or meningeal worm, mostly because, at the beginning of Vlogmas, that was a big topic that was going on in my herd. And I haven't really talked about what it is and how it affects them and what I'm doing to treat them. But I will say up front, I'm not a vet. I'm just a woman with alpacas trying to figure stuff out. You know, I have no formal training, nothing that would make me an expert in this. I would not call myself an expert. I just have some experience. It's unfortunate because it's not something I want experience in, but I do have it. And I know a lot of you have some questions about it. If you're looking into alpacas, owning alpacas or llamas, this is something you most definitely have to be aware of so that you are prepared, and you can take appropriate action for your farm or ranch. And I have some notes here I'm reading off of my phone. I did find an article from Purdue University. It is from 2000, so it's very dated, but it brings up some points that I wanted to make sure I did not forget to tell you. I did make a video of this a week or so ago, just off the top of my head, and I decided to remake it, kind of making sure I got all the points, because there's definitely things in that video that that I did not cover that I really want to make sure to tell you. So first of all, M-worm is short for meningeal worm. It is one of the I think it's the biggest thing that you need to be concerned about with alpacas when it comes to sickness and disease. They're not susceptible to very many things, but M-worm is definitely a big one that they are. So you do have to keep up on parasites. A little side note with that, we do not broadly deworm alpacas and llamas. And I'm in the Midwest of the United States, so that's a mindset that we have here. We do not just broadly deworm to deworm, and just in case anything is there. That is not what we do. Instead, we run fecal samples and we treat for what is present in the body. And we do this instead of broadly deworm to help minimize resistance to deworming medications. So the one exception to this is related to M-worm. So yeah, with parasites, especially if you are keeping alpacas and llamas with other animals with non-camelids, then you need to be extra cautious about parasites. And that is a different topic that I've thought about doing. There's an article I need to find in order to talk about that more. So yeah, that'll be a different topic for another day. Back to M-worm. M-worm is a parasite, and it is primarily transported through white-tailed deer. So check with your vet in your area if M-worm is actually a concern, because it's not everywhere, and so it's not a concern for everyone. But check with your vet if it's something that you need to be concerned about. If you have white-tailed deer in your area, chances are you got it. I have a lot of white-tailed deer in my area. In fact, my area, people come from all over the country during deer hunting season to come and hunt them. Apparently we have really good deer. So I'm not a deer hunter or a hunter of any kind, so I don't know much about that other than every fall there's a season when a bunch of hunters show up, and it's like a part of the local industry. So yeah, white-tailed deer are present. They do run through my pasture. They do affect my herd with concerning the M-worm, because obviously I have it here. So how it works is the white-tailed deer are a carrier of M-worm. It does not affect them, does not harm them, but they are a carrier of it. And I believe it really is, it also has something to do with snails, um, snails that they carry or something or other. How exactly that works, I'm not sure. Um, but white-tailed deer are a part of the equation as to how it is brought to your property. So what happens is the white-tailed deer are there. Somehow they leave the slugs, the snails, and the alpacas and llamas, as they're grazing, will ingest the parasite, ingest the M-worm. Alpacas and llamas are considered the end host. They cannot transmit that to any other animals. They are the end host. And so when they ingest it, then that parasite goes on to affect their neurological system. And so I wanted to read a little bit from this article. Clinical signs observed in affected llamas and alpacas would be lameness, incoordination, difficulty rising, paraplegia, paralysis, circling, and blindness. Clinical signs appear around 45 to 53 days post-infection. Now, this may be some outdated information, keep that in mind. But once you start seeing them not walking quite right, they can't get up and down, cushing quite right, anything having to do with their movement being a little off, this is something to consider. There are other things that it could be, like tick paralysis or other things to consider as well. But the thing with M-worm is there's no test for it. Unfortunately, you can't run a test to know that they have it. So it's like process of elimination. You consider the other possibilities for what could be causing the behavior. If there are none and the behavior fits the profile of M-worm, then you treat them as a precaution because they might have it, but you don't really know. And if they have it and you don't treat them, they're most definitely going to die. Okay? Because what happens is this M-worm in the gut travels in their system through their neurological system. As it travels, it affects their movement. That's why they, can't move quite right. And ultimately, it travels up to their brain where they die. And this says, sorry, I'm a little trying to decide what to tell you when. This disease is a serious threat to llama and alpaca producers for numerous reasons. One, it has been shown that as few as 5 larvae can cause 100% morbidity and 67% mortality. That's why this is a very serious thing. You will only know if they are infected with M-worm when they have finally passed from M-worm and you do a necropsy. You only know for sure if it's M-worm after the fact. So you treat them as if they have it if there's no other explanation for what's going on. There is a preventative, and there are 2 medications. I have used ivermectin. The preventative with ivermectin is every 30 days. It is 1 cc per 70 pounds, and you give it subcutaneously. The reason you give it every 30 days has to do with the life cycle of the larva. And, here it had said clinical signs appear around 45 to 53 days post-infection. So within 30 days, because the way the life cycle works, if you treat within 30 days, you're getting the larva that is in their gut that has not moved on to their neurological system yet. And you kill that larva while it's in the gut. And you do it every 30 days because of the life cycle that it is. So once it has made its way into the neurological system, the ivermectin will no longer work because it does not pass the barrier that protects the nervous system. Once it gets to that point, then you have to actually do a treatment. So I know there are people who also use, I believe it's Dectomax. I don't know the dosage or the frequency, but I know that you are not to switch back and forth between ivermectin and Dectomax because of the way that they affect the system. There's different lengths of time in between the doses. So it's like you pick one and you stick with it religiously. For a period of time, I was doing this ivermectin preventive measure, and I did it every 28 days so that it fell on the same day of the week every month, and it was easier to get people to help me and do that. I call it herd health days. For the girls, I crawled all of them into my 3 stalls here, so it was easy to catch them. I learned to be very quick at it, to catch them. Actually, I had someone else hold them. I would do the shot, subcutaneous, in and out really fast. And I would prepare the syringes beforehand based on the weight of the girls. So, most of my girls fall within the same weight range. I had some that were bigger, some that were smaller, and I would take that into consideration when I was preparing the syringes. And I would have all the syringes ready, and boom, 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 I'd get everyone done. And it wouldn't take very long. So yes, I used to do that. And then, honestly, I got lazy. And now I have more animals to do. And obviously, after this situation, I got to get back to doing that because you can choose to do the preventative measure like giving ivermectin every 30 days. The reason that some people choose to not do that is because you do run the risk of building the resistance to ivermectin when using it in treatment for other things. Now, the ivermectin will always remain effective as a preventative for M-worm. That part has shown to stay effective, but by obviously giving it to them every month, they may build up a resistance for having it be effective on other things because of the way that other stuff works in their system, right? So some people have chosen to not do a preventative measure in order to still have the option of using ivermectin for other situations that might come up. I had chosen to, in the past, to do the preventative and take the risk of the resistance buildup, thinking that, well, we'll just try and use other medications for things that might come up because this M-worm thing is far more likely to happen than some other stuff that ivermectin would be used for. That was the choice that I made, and then I got lazy, and now I'm paying for it. I have lost a number of animals to M-worm now, and I mostly just blame myself because I could have done something to reduce that risk. I could have, and I chose not to, and that's on me. What else is there to say? Okay, nothing else in this article that triggers anything for what I want to say, so I think that's it. Oh, no. I did want to talk about treatment. Now, treatment has been changing over time with the more experience that the alpaca and llama community have with M-worm. So here's the thing, the preventative measure, 1 little shot of ivermectin once a month versus what I have done as a treatment, which includes a high dose of Panicure, ivermectin to treat the larva that would still be present in the gut. Everything else is to treat what's going on in the nervous system. So yeah, Panicure, Banamine, I can't remember. There's like 3 different types of shots to give. And then the high dose of Panicure, which is the oral meds that you have to give for 5 days in a row. It's a lot more work to treat them. Obviously, they suffer because of the M-worm, and in most cases, they have neurological defects for the rest of their life. One of my first llamas was Bruno. You would see him on one of my early videos. He died this past summer of old age. But when I first got him, him and all my boys were staying somewhere else, and he contracted M-worm up there. This is somewhere else in Nebraska. He contracted M-worm up there. They treated him, aggressively, and he survived, but he continued to have weakness in his back legs. So when he came to my property, this is when I first had all my girls here, and then a year later built the boys' barn and brought all my boys here, which included Bruno. So at that time, I had split them into 2 groups, and I put him in with the young boys. At that time, Riley, Rum, and Roman were all like a year and a half-ish old. And so they were in that group, and I put Bruno in with them because they didn't do any rough play. What was happening with the grown boys is that they would rough play. Of course, they ride each other on the back. And Bruno, he would have a lot of difficulty when they would try to ride him. And you could see that he was suffering for it. So I thought, well, if I put him in with the young boys who don't do that at all, then maybe he'd have a chance to heal up. And he did improve. His back legs did improve, but there was always struggle there. There was always a deficiency. He could never stand on his back legs. He was intact, and he would orgle and stuff when he would be near girls, but he could never get on his back legs to mount or do anything like that. So he was affected by that for the rest of his life. Ultimately, he did die of old age, but he always suffered in his back legs. So just something to keep in mind. If you have any other questions, I can do my best to answer them, but that's most of what I know. So talk to your vet, talk to other alpaca owners in your area, see what they do, see what their preferences are for preventative treatments, or preventative measures and or treatments, and just make the best decision for your place and your herd. I'll see you tomorrow. You can keep eating, honey. You're all right. You're watching me, huh? Yeah, we're watching you too. We like you.